Nick Herring here at the Havoc at the High Five weigh-ins. I'm here with Ben the Baker Neumann. He'll be fighting Steve Mirth in the main event. How are you feeling, Ben?
Feeling pretty good, just getting rehydrated here, but training camp's gone well, so I feel physically ready for it.
That's good, that's good. Did training camp go well?
Yeah, it's went great. I didn't have any injuries this time, had a lot of great partners to work with, so everything's feeling really good.
Tell me about Steve Mirth. What do you know about him?
This one's kind of tricky because I don't think he's fought since about 2010. So I have no idea if he's been training hard for 3 years, if he took 2 years off and has been training for 1 year. I've only been training for about 6 years total, so you can imagine the fighter I was 3 years ago is very different from the fighter I am now. So I just have a couple of videos to go off of from 2010, 2009. So I can't put too much stock in what I've seen. Just got to be ready for everything, I guess.
Okay. How long have you known of that this was going to be the fight that you were having?
I think back in January. Yeah, January or so. So I've known a few months.
So you've had a full time to prepare.
Yeah, I'm ready for a wrestler, and he seems more like a wrestler and a boxer. Doesn't seem to throw a lot of kicks, but of course, that could have changed in the last few years.
Absolutely. Now, were you surprised when they told you that was the fight that they wanted you to have?
Well, I was trying to get tough fights from Jeremy, so this is a very tough fight. My first opponent, who's a really, really strong wrestler. So those guys are always tough. Even if it's not on the ground, they're just mentally tough guys. So you have to break those guys. You have to submit them. You can't. They're not going to quit on you.
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of fight I need.
Absolutely. Now, you went through a little bit of a rough patch in 2012. You did get back on track with that win over Ben Miller. What did you learn about yourself, or maybe your fighting style or your game planning or whatever that helped you kind of get back on track?
For me, it was the mental aspect of fighting, because I've never been in a fight outside of a cage. You couldn't get me to fight outside of a cage. I was robbed at gunpoint once, and at one point during it, I was thinking about taking the guy out, and I thought, do I really want to kill someone over $100? I'm getting robbed. So even in that case, I wouldn't want to fight. So trying to flip that switch for me was different. In my first few fights, I think I trained a lot more than my opponents, and so it didn't matter too much that I wasn't able to flip the switch. And then I get to opponents that are harder, and I think I was putting myself at a disadvantage, not being ready to commit to finishing. If I have a heel hook, not wanting to break the guy's leg, I need to be ready to break his leg. So I think changing that up, changing my mental mindset was the biggest thing. I think I lost 2 fights where I had the skills to win those fights, and I didn't. So the mindset change was biggest for me, and I felt very focused for my last fight, and I think I'll have that focus again.
So you were able to kind of change that in your mind as far as it's a fight, and you don't necessarily need to worry about the other guy's condition to finish him.
Yeah, we both agreed to this ahead of time, and it's very, especially if a really nice guy outside the cage, it's very, I think it's harder sometimes than other people that are holding back in general society from trying to hurt people. Whereas me, I'm trying to bump it up a level when I go in there, and they're always holding back. So I think they have it easier in that respect for certain areas. But I think I have that figured out a little bit. I did a little meditation. That helps keep you focused as well. A few different things I worked on mentally to change that for myself.
Now, you're a pretty active fighter. You're somebody that's had, quite a few fights given the little amount of time that you've been competing. Are we looking forward to seeing you fight multiple times again in 2013?
Yeah, multiple, sure. I don't know if I want to fight 3 or 4. We'll see. I do want to take a short break, maybe 6 months before my next fight, maybe, to work on some different things. I like to improve a big area of my game between fights. If you fight every 4 months, well, you only get 2 months to work on something because the next 2 is training camp. So if I could take 6 months off, that gives me 4 months to work on something new, work on flexibility, work on some different techniques. So my goal is to fight until I'm, 35, 36. That's like 7-8 years. I'd rather not make it to a large or a big promotion right away if I'm not ready yet. I'd rather develop, feel that I'm unstoppable, and then get to that point.
So what is it that you believe that is the biggest area that you can improve in between, let's say, this fight, because you still only had a couple months to prepare for this fight, and maybe, let's say, you get 6 months? What will you be preparing on between that time?
Specifically for my next 6 months, I really want to work on flexibility because I feel I've limited myself. I'm flexible in some areas, but for my kicks, height, and speed is limited because I have poor hip flexibility. So if I really work on that, it's painful. It's not fun to work on. I'd rather get punched in the face than work on stretching. But that's going to be a big one for me. I think that's going to help a lot of areas of my game. Improve on techniques that I already do, but they're going to make them better and quicker, I think.
So finally, how do you think that the fight will play out tomorrow night?
I see. He won against Volkman. I should double check. I forget if Volkman submitted him or not. Was it decision that Volkman won? Do you know?
I don't know.
For some reason, I don't think he got submitted. So Volkman couldn't submit him. It'd probably be tough for me to submit him too. So I think if I can just punish him from all areas. It seems like he's more comfortable from very close standing space, like tight boxing, and I'm more comfortable from distance. So if I can keep him at range and use my length, I think I could frustrate him outside, and then if he gets in close, I'm comfortable on the ground too. So I have no idea where exactly it'll finish, but most likely the ground. I've never knocked anyone out before, so it'll probably be on the ground somewhere.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you, Ben. Again, this is Nick Herron with Ben the Baker Neumann. Tomorrow night he'll be fighting Steve Mirth in the main event at Havoc at High Five. Thanks, Ben.